The federal government has been shut down for over a month now, and while politicians argue in Washington, something shocking is happening on America's public lands. Over 29,000 park employees have been furloughed, 2/3 of the National Park Service workforce gone. But here's the twist. While parks are left unstaffed and chaos is spreading, oil and gas workers have been declared essential. They're still on the job, still drilling, still permitting. This story isn't about a shutdown. It's about what's being dismantled while no one is watching. Let's start with what's actually happening on the ground because it's worse than you think. On October 1st, the government shutdown. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum made a controversial call to keep national parks open, but with almost no staff. Out of 14,500 National Park Service employees, nearly 9,300 were sent home. That's parks like Yosemite, Yellowstone, and Rocky Mountain running on skeleton crews. Former park leaders, over 450 of them, begged the administration to close the parks. They said it was too dangerous. The administration ignored them, and predictably, chaos followed. At Yosemite, illegal base jumpers flooded El Capitan with barely any law enforcement around. They saw an opportunity. One climber put it bluntly, "When the cat's away, the mice will play." At Bandelier National Monument in New Mexico, trespassers broke into closed areas with sensitive archaeological sites. These are irreplaceable cultural resources, thousands of years old. One act of vandalism could destroy them forever. Visitors are showing up to parks with zero information. Websites aren't being updated. Phone lines aren't being answered. People arrive at Pinnacles National Park in California only to find entrances closed without warning. Campers at Joshua Tree get conflicting information about whether their reserved sites are even open. Now, here's where it gets even more frustrating. Some volunteers and nonprofits are trying to help. At Rocky Mountain National Park, staff from the YMCA of the Rockies are hauling out trash. In Colorado's White River National Forest, one woman is personally cleaning and restocking Forest Service bathrooms. But even volunteers are confused. Early in the shutdown, some groups were told all volunteer work had to stop. Then the U.S. Department of Agriculture reversed course and said volunteers could continue under existing agreements, but they wouldn't clarify who qualifies or what happens if someone gets injured. A lot of us are a little afraid to go out and do anything. That's the latest in the chaos. Conservation groups are now advising people to just avoid national parks altogether during the shutdown. Visit state parks instead. And if you go to a national park, pack out everything you brought in and maybe pick up some trash while you're at it. But don't try to clean the toilets. Apparently, there could be legal repercussions. Let that sink in. America's public lands are in such disarray that volunteers are scared to help. Now, what do you think about that? Should the parks have closed from the start, or is keeping them open worth the risk? Drop your take in the comments. I'm genuinely curious where people stand on this. But the immediate chaos is only part of the story. The long-term damage is what should really worry you. October is a critical month for wildfire prevention. It's when the weather is cool and wet enough to safely conduct prescribed burns and fuel treatments. But within the shutdown, many of those projects have been canceled. No staff means no burns, and that means more fuel building up for next fire season. Wildland firefighters are still working without pay, but the support staff they rely on, meteorologists, map makers, administrators, they've been furloughed. One firefighter in Washington said, "Fire season is hard enough without this. I'm sure there are people who would rather have firefighters focus on how to put out fires rather than how to pay their bills." Wildlife conservation is grinding to a halt too. In Colorado, October and November are the only months when biologists can safely release captive bred black-footed ferrets into the wild. But experts at the U.S. Park and Wildlife Service furloughed. Habitat restoration projects have stopped. A wildlife-friendly fencing project outside Yellowstone paused. A creek restoration project in Montana's Lola National Forest on hold. And grant applications for 2026 conservation projects, they're due in early November. But no one knows if the deadlines will be extended. Nonprofits have spent months preparing these applications, and now they're just in limbo. The economic toll is massive too. Gateway communities, the towns that rely on park tourism, are losing up to $80 million per day. Hotels, restaurants, gear shops, all taking a hit. One vacation rental owner in West Virginia said their bookings are down 30%. An inn owner near Glacial National Park reported cancellations from people who just don't want to risk the uncertainty. And the parks themselves, they're missing out on about $1 million per day in entrance fees, plus another $3.9 million in revenue from gift shops and visitor programs run by nonprofit partners. That's over $30 million lost as of today. Money that could have gone towards trail maintenance, visitor safety, and accessibility improvements. A few states are stepping up. Utah is spending $8,000 a day to keep visitor centers open at its 5 national parks. Colorado is chipping in about $3,200 a day for Rocky Mountain National Park. But these are just band-aids on a bullet wound. Now here's the part that should make your blood boil. While parks are crumbling and conservation projects are frozen, oil and gas permitting is business as usual. The Trump administration designated BLM staff who work on oil and gas permits as essential workers. They're exempt from the furlough, and since the shutdown began, the federal government has processed over 500 new drilling permits. During the shutdown, the BLM also approved a copper mine expansion in Utah, held a coal lease in Montana, and planned an oil and gas auction in Alaska's National Petroleum Reserve. Let me say that again. The people who care for our public lands, furloughed. The people who drill on them, essential. So what's really happening here? This isn't just a shutdown, it's a restructuring. The Trump administration isn't hiding it. They're using this crisis to permanently gut staff, gut agencies, and prioritize extraction over conservation. The National Park Service mandate is to conserve these lands unimpaired for the enjoyment of future generations. But right now, those lands are being left to chaos while the machinery of extraction keeps humming. The shutdown will eventually end, damage being done to parks, to wildlife, to the very people who dedicate their lives to protecting these places. That's the real cost. And it's one we'll be paying for years. If this story got under your skin like it did mine, hit the like button and subscribe. We're going to keep following this story as it unfolds because America's public lands belong to all of us, and we deserve to know what's happening to them. I'm Patrick, and this is Lovely Adventures.